I'm joined now from the YAP programme by Martin Ryan. Good morning to you, Martin.
Good morning. How are you?
And Martin, thank you. We were due to talk to you yesterday, but we didn't. We're hearing some background noise there as well. Martin, are you close to a tannoy?
No. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I'd say we're all right there now.
Yeah.
Can you just explain what the YAP programme actually is, Martin? What is it? Or who are you?
Well, the YAP programme is named as the Youth Advocacy Programme, and primarily we work with young people between the ages of 10 to 18 years of age over a 6-month period. We effectively work with young people for up to 15 hours per week. We work primarily on a one-to-one basis, Alan, and that one-to-one work is primarily done with what we call youth advocates, community-based advocates. And we work with young people primarily referred to us by the Children and Family Services over the course of in the South area particularly, and nationwide obviously as well.
So are you a government body, or how do you survive?
Well, we're a non-for-profit organisation in that sense, and we're a charity registered organisation as well. We're connected to the Children and Family Services by I suppose contract basis on that, you know what I mean? That we would primarily get referrals. Those referrals will come in primarily from the HSC as such, you know.
Right. Do I take it that these are children that are going through difficulty that you deal with predominantly?
Yeah, I mean, a cohort of young people primarily would come to us from the varying degrees of difficulty they would come across, like such as self-esteem, confidence, withdrawal, isolation, engagement or non-engagement with community structures, but also could be coming from educational difficulties or justice issues or other issues like that as such, you know. So the general cohort is just that sense.
Listen, I've heard, and I can't go into it in too much detail, but I have heard of an increase in the amount of students being suspended or expelled from schools due to unruly behaviour, abusive to teachers, abusive to their fellow pupils. Have you seen a rise in this area? Is it something that you will be dealing with?
Well, I suppose we work very closely with our educational partners in that sense, I suppose. And I suppose that for the young people that present to us, although they do have some of those difficulties, that wouldn't be the huge cohort that we would deal with in that sense, you know. Although we would work primarily with EWOs and certainly a lot of the schools that we would deal with, our main focus here really is to support young people to reconnect back into their own community structures, and also to support them in the school structure as much as it is out of it.
Yeah, so if it hasn't been people who've been abusive in school, what is the disconnection that you reconnect then? What are you dealing with mostly?
Well, primarily you're dealing with a lot of young people that present with us at the moment. Primarily you're dealing with the likes of, we say, withdrawal and isolation from community. I suppose with the rise in the likes of the Xboxes and PlayStations and all those other aspects, you know, the individual peer-to-peer connection in some ways has been lost in some ways. So there is that reconnection. There is also a connection in the context of, you know, young people reconnecting back into the youth services in that sense as well, and young people finding that they don't feel to have a connection back to that structure. But to be fair to the youth service and other agencies in the community, they're willing to support young people as much as they can. But obviously, a lot of young people provide, you know, for us to bring them back to that structure as well, you know. So, and that's primarily what the youth advocacy, the community-based advocacy worker does as well, you know.
We have a very active Ferns Diocesan Youth Service here. We speak to them at regular intervals in this programme. Do you work hand in hand with somebody like that, or do you work separately to them?
No, I suppose in the context of community, I think it's really important that we all work together closely, do you know what I mean? And with the Limerick Youth Service specifically, we would have very good and good connections with them, obviously, in the sense. I mean, when we're working in the community, particularly with young people in the community, it is really important that no one organisation can work in isolation. It is important that we work with our partners, certainly on the ground. But also in that as well, it's also to show to young people also as well that when a problem is faced by a community, and we believe very strongly in the context that we believe that a community, it's a community response to young people, and young people respond to that process as well.
Right, so you have seen people who've come to you improved dramatically. How have they improved, and after what period of time have they improved?
Well, as I said earlier, Alan, I suppose that our main focus is that we work with young people over a 6-month period. A lot of our connection with young people is based on trust, and I suppose that when you see that on a one-to-one level, we can work with young people up to 15 hours per week, which is an enormous amount of intervention. I mean, we've seen huge improvements in relation to the relationship with peers, in 84% improvement in self-esteem and confidence, and in 88% in relation to withdrawal and isolation. I mean, those stats alone itself has been phenomenal, and right across the board in our nationwide longitudinal research that has been launched yesterday, Alan, we've seen those improvements right across the country in that sense. So it is proving to some degree that one-to-one intervention, and certainly building on the strengths-based approach works very, very, very well with young people who are generally connected from community.
Has this been rolled out in Wexford, or is it going to be rolled out in Wexford, and if so, when?
Well, first of all, I suppose that we hope as an organisation that we want to roll it out in every community and every county in Ireland. That's the first most important part, because we believe that every child in the country should be able to avail of a particular service. But second of all, in relation to Wexford and Waterford and all that, in that area as such, we are talking to our partners in the Children and Family Services to start our programme down there. We are certainly willing and able, and we have community-based advocates who are willing and able to start in the programme down in that context as well.
Yeah, you mentioned about Xbox and computer usage and the like. Have you a recommended time? If a parent is listening, their young person could be at school at the moment. What's the limit time-wise you would recommend that a student be allowed access Xbox or access social media?
It's a hard one to call out, and I suppose every individual, first of all, we treat every individual as an individual, and I think it's hard to put up a prescriptive right across the board. But I think what's important for us is that it is monitored and it is managed by the parent, and I think that's what's more important. And I think as well, that the biggest advice that we generally give to parents, that in the context of Xbox and PlayStation and all those social media aspects, that is done in the common room in the house as such, and I think that in that context it can be monitored very closely. Yeah. A lot of our parents that we deal with primarily and support, the Xbox and PlayStation do become a great tool for sanctioning also as well. Do you know what I mean? And in that sense, obviously, there is that kind of a tool where you can turn off the Xbox, you can turn off the internet, you can turn off the broadband. So in that sense, it is the parent is the responsible aspect here, and I think that it's done in the common space, but it's also done in communication with the young person. And a lot of our young persons, to be honest with you, do have a fairly good understanding that being in front of an Xbox all day isn't really good for them either, to be fair.
Yeah, but when you're talking about social media, then you're recommending up to a certain age that if somebody is going on it, that they need to be visible to in the main room of the house. Yeah.
No, that's very difficult then when you have the likes of smartphones and all those other things, but that can be done in very much in a private context. But I suppose when you look at it in the sense that as a parent, and I think that we all take responsibility as parents to be able to do the best we possibly can to monitor where we can. And I think in that context, obviously, the distribution of smartphones and all that kind of thing as well, I think it's about the well-being of young people and building on the strengths of young people to make positive choices for themselves as well. And therefore, communication is a very important thing there in that context.
Right, just to round off our discussion with you this morning, you will let us know if you decide, or you will be coming into the Wexford area so that we can let our listeners know again. But just for the benefit of parents tuned in this morning, what would be the main points that you would say to them to be vigilant on?
Well, I think the vigilance in the context of just being, I suppose, the common monitoring of certain social media aspects and certain community computer games in that context, but certainly building on the strengths of young people. A lot of our young people have a huge amount of strength, and that is something that we don't generally talk. We always talk about the things they do wrong, and I think in YAP we always talk about the things they do well. So the building on the strengths of young people and to promote that, I think it's centrally important, and I think to be positive around that.
Have you got a website that people can find out more about YAP?
Absolutely, it's www.yapireland.ie. And on their website, you will see the executive summary of our research will have been notched, but also on that you will see a lot of the videos and certainly the stuff that we would have done over the course of the last number of years. And we'd be absolutely delighted to come down to Waterford and Wexford at any given stage. We'd be more than delighted to be invited down. Absolutely.
Good to talk to you. Thank you for taking time to talk to us this morning. That's the YAP programme. We'll keep you posted on that. And that was Martin Ryan representing the YAP programme this morning. In just a moment, the helping hand of Console, Clodagh's story, how the organisation is helping her